So first of all, thank you very much, Samyak, for your time, and welcome to the Career Clarity podcast. For the viewers who are there watching this, I would just go and speak a bit about Samyak and his background. Samyak is an IIT Delhi graduate. He's also a founder of myways.ai, which is an AI and psychometric powered personalized career growth platform. Samyak has been also featured on some of the top speaking shows like TEDx, Josh Talks. And the best part about Samyak is, while Samyak was continuing with his BTech from IIT Delhi, he had a lot of exploration which he has done. He had done exploration in the field of volunteering. He had his stint in entrepreneurship. He did a research work also with Peking University. He worked with Government of India on different projects, like he worked as a design innovation fellow for Ministry of HRD. Then he also uh, worked as EIR, that is Entrepreneur in Residence. He was also a delegate in 2018 for HPAIR, that is Harvard Project for Asian and International Relations. Apart from that, he was deeply involved in college curricular activities, like he was the head of social activity campaign for the Rendezvous. Then he was also awarded as a best student mentor. He was also serving for the admin department of IIT Delhi as a international relationship manager, right? So carrying those sort of exposure in 4 years during his BTech is something which the students can learn a lot from. At the same times, the parents and students, both of you will get a lot of insight on that, right? So welcome once again, Samyak, and thank you very much, Samyak, for joining this conversation. I would request you to start and give you a brief background about yourself, and then we will deep dive into the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Samrid, for inviting me. Yes, so I think you had actually given a good brief about those 4 years. I always say that those 4 years I can live back and back again because those 4 years were really full of lot of excitement, lot of work to be done, lot of things to be learned, right? And those 4 years of the college time, I think, has actually changed my personality quite a lot. So I come from a town near Delhi, right? It's called Meerut. It's around 80 kilometers from Delhi. And uh, in my college, right, I didn't get a lot of, in my school time, I didn't get a lot of exposure. I still remember till class 8, I was completely that kind of a person who so it's not very good part when I look back at it, but it's not really bad as well. So from till the time I remember, right, maybe eighth class, ninth class, or even till 10, there was hardly any time where I was getting a negative or maybe less than 90. So I was a completely studious kind of person, but I think something happened in class ninth onwards where I used to participate a lot in extracurricular activities in college. And by extracurricular, I started with primarily academic related extracurricular, right, which starts with, let us say, different kind of olympiads or different kind of competitions across, and from there went into non-academic extracurricular also, but didn't get a lot of exposure in school, right? And I remember class 11th and 12th, I had taken admission in a school in Delhi. So and also was doing coaching for IIT JEE. So those 2 years were nothing but studying 8 hours or 10 hours. I found it very difficult to study that much. So I was on an average studying for 6 7 hours. But after I went into college, right, that's an interesting story. How I landed up in IIT, specifically IIT Delhi, because while I was studying for IIT Delhi, I knew that it is one of the best, and IIT Bombay is also. So these two are the best. But I never looked into what ranks do we need to get into these colleges, and I had by default assumed that I'll not get there because I'm not actually studying so much that I am seeing my peers studying so hard, right? I was not studying that much, and while the results came, right? So उससे पहले I think 3 या 4 महीने पहले एग्जाम से we were talking about, so I was talking to my professor, और उनको हम भैया बोलते थे. I studied from Vidya Mandir classes. So I told him कि भैया I want to become a architect. So he was surprised and he said कि यार ये तो तू गलत लाइन में आ गया है. You have to actually then do this B arc का पेपर जो जेई वाला ही होता है शायद, एंड उसके लिए तो अलग से पढ़ाई लगेगी. मैंने कहा अच्छा ठीक है चलो छोड़ देते हैं. What is the closest to architecture? And now like I see how foolish I was. I thought कि सबसे ज्यादा पास होगा सिविल इंजीनियरिंग. तो आई एक्चुअली थॉट कि चलो ठीक ठीक है सिविल इंजीनियरिंग के लिए ऑप्ट करते हैं. एंड इन माय एरिया इन मेरठ राइट आईआईटी रुड़की is quite very famous. So they don't know IIT Bombay, they don't know IIT Delhi, right? They actually know ki IIT Roorkee because it's a very old college and it is more about civil engineering specifically. So my relatives, my parents and all of them were like कि ठीक है IIT Roorkee civil is your target. And I was मतलब मैंने खुद ही दिया था वो टारगेट. बट हाँ आई वाज टेलिंग एवरीवन कि ठीक है ये टारगेट रख सकते हैं. एंड आईआईटी रुड़की वाज अ रीजनेबल टारगेट टू पुट इन. I again I didn't check the ranks and all. How it ended up eventually when I got the results I saw अच्छा मुझे ये लगा था कि 2000 से नीचे आईआईटी नहीं मिलेगा. मतलब आई वाज वेरी लाइक आई वाज जस्ट स्टडीइंग. आई वाज नॉट रियली लुकिंग इनटू व्हाट इज माय एम. एंड आई गॉट द जेई रैंक व्हिच वाज आई थिंक 3412. So that was my JEE advanced rank. And
Okay.
I was literally into tears कि यार ये क्या हो गया. And finally when I actually went back and saw the cutoffs, I saw कि अच्छा IIT Delhi में भी मिलने का chance है. And I was so happy कि यार ये क्या हो रहा है. So
Great.
precisely at that time, my elder brother has helped a lot, and I think for the students listening to this, I think you should really be looking at those mentors which can actually like show you the reality. Eventually the option was after cutting down a lot of other options, कोई दूर है कोई branch अच्छा नहीं है XYZ, I had the option of biochemical engineering in IIT Delhi and civil engineering in IIT Roorkee. So these were the two
Okay.
options and I
Yeah.
was like कि ठीक है सही है अब तो. And at that time I think that was the first time I was taking a serious call, right? उससे पहले I don't think so I was serious about my career. It was just about studying और अच्छा पढ़ना है और अच्छा करना है वैसा था. So
Right.
when I looked into it seriously, that's where I thought कि यार ठीक है अभी I think I am more of a business kind of person. जॉब तो नहीं करना है. उस टाइम पे ये तो था कि शायद कुछ करना है जॉब नहीं करना है. मे बी आई गो फॉर MBA, मे बी आई प्रिपेयर फॉर IAS और समथिंग. एंड उस सब में सिविल इंजीनियरिंग वाज और स्पेसिफिकली IIT रुड़की बिकॉज ऑफ द एक्सपोजर दैट द सीनियर्स वर टेलिंग कि वहां पे इतना
Right.
नहीं होगा जितना दिल्ली में होगा. एंड आई थिंक दैट्स व्हाट द स्टोरी फ्रॉम देयर बिगिंस व्हाट यू जस्ट मेंशन. आई गॉट इनटू IIT दिल्ली एंड वहां पे एक्सपोजर इतना मिला टू अ tier 2 town person that it actually I utilized it in a very positive manner. I would have utilized it in the other way also. They're both kind of exposure there. So I think that's how this story began. So this was just a bit of how I landed up to what you just mentioned.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great, and sounds interesting. So, uh, so you joined IIT Delhi in 2015, right? And it was a 4-year BTech course which you did. So, because as I mentioned, you had explored a lot. My first question to you would be, how did you manage to do a lot of things inside the college? What is that thing?
Right. Sure. So I think while you are in college, right? I think first year was really the nightmare for me. Uska reason ye tha that there are a lot of things to be done, right? You see seniors calling you for 15 different kind of clubs or different kind of activities which are there, and they want you to actually participate in all of those and decide which one is good for you, right? Just to mention few, debate, cricket, right? Then there is sports में पूरा आपका हर चीज आ जाता है. Very new thing called drama, right? Street drama, stage drama, that was there. I've participated in cricket. I've given auditions for cricket. I failed there. I've given auditions for debate also. I failed there. I had like participated in multiple activities in drama, and I really enjoyed that. I think that was one part where we were so I'll just share this story where uh, I think day 4 or day 5 of this drama activity, once they've warmed you up about what's street drama, they actually uh, asked me to come in the middle of that circle and shout out anything, anything, a good dialogue or anything, right? And I was literally an introvert till then. till school time, I was literally an introvert, and today I'm like that kind of extrovert which can actually talk in front of a lot of people. I clearly remember that incident where I told myself that, hey, now I really have to uh, speak out loud whatever I feel, and this incident will actually make this introvert come out in public and become an extrovert. And I clearly remember that incident. So these kind of things, right? Then there was the Munirka teaching project where nearby Basti was there, and we used to go there and teach. So I remember participating in all of these NSS, lot of social activities, and all of these, right? Why I was doing this was very, very clear, right? When you ask me, right, how was I able to manage? I think one thing which has helped me really well was quite early in my college time. I was able to differentiate the whys of things. Why I am doing this, why I am not doing that. Right. So, for example, why I'm not attending a lecture versus why I'm going to teaching, or why I'm going to drama, or why, for that matter, I'm going with friends out to a club or to anywhere. Right. Um However, this came up with time. So initially, I remember I was actually not going for classes or not putting in right attention in classes, and you are allocated a mentor which is in third year. You are in first year, you are allocated a mentor who is in third year. My mentor actually literally shouted at me saying that if others can study, why can't you? I was just blaming the professors. And I remember that was a good time in my life where I actually thought this here. Obviously, like, I'm giving excuses to myself. So maybe beyond that point, I had taken studies quite seriously. But once you're very clear on your whys, right, you're able to devote that equal time. So, for example, 8 to 5 hour classes, you know that this is your lecture time, and in the middle you'll get a lot of time, and you can actually uh, do a lot of other stuff there. From this to identifying which lectures are important, which lectures are not, which lectures you can actually avoid, or which lectures you can actually use your mobile phone in or do some work at while during the lecture, right? So from this in the first year to actually convincing my professors in the fourth year that hey, so first year I was just avoiding these lectures or taking out reasons to not go there, to final year where I actually convinced some of my professors that, hey, professor, I am not sitting for placements. I'm not looking for a biotechnology job right now. I'm not looking for placements. Uh, I have actually started my startup and requires a lot of time. So please allow me to avoid the lectures. I ensure that I'll get good grades. I'll study quite hard during the exam time. And they quite listen to it. They listen to this pitch, and finally they allowed me. So this kind of, once you're clear, so I always follow this, that ask difficult questions to yourself. If you are clear, right, then no one else will come and ask those difficult questions to you and confuse you. So you should be the one asking these difficult questions of why you are doing this, why you're not. So I think that has helped me manage my time quite well. Yeah.
Oh, that's great, Samyak. I mean, this is a deep answer which you gave. Like normally, I was expecting that maybe you might have been managing your time well, or you might be using to-do lists, or maybe scheduling the things. But you just hit on the root cause. Like, what was your why? You were very much clear on that. That this is why I am not attending this particular lecture. This is why I am attending this thing rather than attending a lecture, or attending this particular lecture and doing this parallelly. So that's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing those insightful things. And I think this will be helpful for students a lot to figure out their whys. But my second question would be, how can a student figure out their whys? What can be the process of figuring out those whys? Kivo, if you can share some thoughts.
Sure, sure. That's like a difficult question. So I'll just try to reiterate maybe my journey, and perhaps we'll try to find out that answer through that journey, right? So as you have mentioned, right, first year, uh, I think the major confusion in my life, and I think that's true for most of the other students. So while if you're in class 10, looking to join either science or commerce, or you are in class 12th, or just passing out of class 12th, like choosing your stream, or you have come into college, right? I think I've always followed a funnel approach, right? In the first year, I was not very clear on what all is there, right? So I always follow three I's. First is information, right? Second is the first is introspection, second is information, and third is interaction. So first and foremost, introspection means whether you are aware of yourself, right? Second is information, whether you are aware about the world. Do you have enough information or not? And the third is interaction. So I always try to solve for these things, making frameworks. So this was a 3I framework, where third I was interaction. Interaction means interacting with the right people in whatever you're doing. So, for example, in the first year, I clearly remember introspection. I think I was naturally built that way. But information, because of my background, I have very limited information about what all is there. I literally didn't know what's drama, right? I didn't really know. I've done some decent debate, but not too much. I didn't know what is. I have never been to a slum area, to a basti. I didn't know the problems that these people face, right? I've also led a chapter in blood donation space. I didn't really know what is blood donation. I just used to know that किसी का accident हो गया तो blood donate करना पड़ता है, but I didn't know what house of it, right? From there to not knowing the technical details of my engineering, what I've opted for, right? Biotechnology is not really biology, right? It's more about chemistry, more about other things than biology. So I didn't know about all of that. First first year was majorly around capturing that set of information, right? uh, Once I've collected all of that, then I went back to introspection and seeing what I was enjoying, what I was not enjoying, what is actually good. uh, Second year when I went there, I think I was not very clear about the one information which I have not captured, and this I got to know through introspecting quite well, is that hey, I don't really know anything about biotechnology. And it was my first year end. And for that matter, right, we are just talking about engineering, but policy, I did a policy boot camp at the end of my first year. I got to know about policy, right? And engineering student going into policy space, learning about policy, right? It gave a lot of exposure there. First year mid somewhere, I was actually thinking of what should I do in the second year internship, right? That's where a lot of people around me were doing foreign internship applications and all of that. From there, I identified that hey, I don't really know about biotechnology, and I sat with my professor, who was a real mentor to me. He was not really a professor to me; he was a mentor to my life, right? So he mentioned that hey, Samyak, if you're applying for this, I had three options. I can go to Australia in a carbon dating space. I can go to Beijing in a DNA replication space, and then I can go to Taiwan in more of a I think it was more around biology or something, right? So I had been to Beijing before that. So as a second year student, you would naturally see that hey, Australia seems to be really fancy option.
Right.
But my purpose was my introspection told me that don't have enough information about the biotechnology space, and interaction means right set of mentors. See, at that time, my professor, who was more of a mentor to
Correct.
me, he told me that no matter your experience of these 2 months in Beijing is going to be good or not, do not take a career decision basis that, because that can have a lot of reasons why you don't like the internship or why you like the internship, right? So what I ended up with this kind of interaction or this kind of mentorship is my experience in China was not really very good, but I really enjoyed the work they were doing. So that's where I figured out that hey, I really have a good interest in DNA replication also. See, as students of class 9th to 12th, what we need to understand is there might be 100 reasons why we actually don't like a subject or why we like a subject. The biggest reason being the
Correct.
teacher who is teaching it,
Ah,
right? So
yeah.
I liked maths because my maths teacher was really good than my social science teacher, right? But in college, I found out people who were more interested in policy, social science, and all of that space, that I actually gained a lot of interest there. And as a matter of fact, more than engineering, more than science, I really like psychology, right? It was
Okay.
because of that exposure that I got there. From this to actually finally shortlisting the points where I thought that psychology is one part, entrepreneurship is another, psychology related marketing, HR is the third and fourth field that I'm actually interested in. I thought of actually pursuing masters in psychology,
Okay.
right, while I was in college. So these 3 4 areas were there which I explored further in depth. I've done a diploma in coaching, right? Or a
Okay.
one-to-one coaching from a psychology perspective.
Great.
So third year I have spent all of that there, and then shortlisted my options further to finally figuring out that, hey, I'm not going to sit for placements. Entrepreneurship in the education space in that industry is something that I want to do. And I was very, very confident while I was actually not sitting for placements. So that gave me confidence, that gave the confidence to my friends, my families, and my well-wishers that, hey, we support you, you go ahead. So interaction is where you actually talk to right set of people to build a confidence on what you have figured out from introspection and information. So that is again, I think quite a long answer, but I'll try to make it short the next time.
No. That's absolutely needed. Like the way you have explained is something which is required to understand the intricacies and the deeper level of choosing a right career option, because these are the practical things which students can apply in their lives in order to jot down or filter down, as you mentioned your funnel approach, कि यार ये चीजें पसंद नहीं आ रही हैं, ये अच्छा लग रहा है, उसके बारे में बात करना लोगों से, एंड देन फिगरिंग आउट की डिस्टिल करना कि व्हाट सूट्स यू द बेस्ट. So thank you for sharing that in detail, Samyak. So getting a lot of insights. So thank you for that. Uh, One thing which you mentioned, Abhi, in the last talk which you shared, that there are many factors which can help you in deciding a career. Like you mentioned that a right teacher, a good teacher who can teach you, can also create an interest in that particular subject, but not necessarily 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line, you would like to create a career into that. Like for me, I have been really good at math, so I scored 99 in my class 10th and all. But now when I look at the going deeper inside the data science, I don't enjoy that, because that also involves a lot of mathematics, right? So what is your take on that? What are other factors which students can use when it comes to choosing or identifying a career, if you can mention some?
Sure. So I think one of the factors is definitely, do you have enough exposure on different options that you have, right? That's really important. The other one of the very common factors that I see, right? Because I've interacted with the one-to-one with more than, I think, 200 students in college level, because my work is also in that space. MyWays.ai is actually working in the career space. Is practicality. So some of us actually do not believe that this is possible. For example, when I actually started the workshops with MyWays.ai around 5 years back, I read somewhere that there is a so if you like dogs too much, you can actually build a career in dog walking, and like taking a dogs on walk, or taking a dog of your neighbor on walk, and you can earn money
Right.
from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
I recently saw some ads of a startup working in India in that space finally after
Correct.
4 or 5 years. And practicality means that, hey, you like doing this, but you think that, hey, you cannot earn money from it, right? Another example is YouTubers. So vlogging and travel and all of that, right? You
Right.
can actually make a lot of good money in all of those. It's just about you figuring that out, that, hey, are you able to make a business model out of it? So
Correct.
practicality is second. Third, I think, is the risk associated with all of that, right? So you feel that practical bhi hai, sab kuch hai, but you are not risk taking enough, or you are not able to actually put in the right effort that's needed. So these are some other factors apart from the interest only, which actually makes you think कि नहीं यार वो safe option है, उसी को कर लेते हैं. या
Okay.
फिर ऐसा तो possible ही नहीं है that I can do something else apart from engineering, or let's say commerce, or BBA, or let us say medical. तो सिर्फ ये 4 options या 5 options नहीं है.
Okay.
There
Right.
are a
Right.
lot of mix and matches of options nowadays.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Samyak.
So one interesting insight I think
Yeah.
I'll add
Yeah.
on to this, because this I think
Sure.
is going to be very, very useful for the students.
Right.
So I used to look into some data at ID Delhi, what people are doing out of after they graduate, right? So most of us do not end up going into engineering. Most of us actually go into consulting and such kind of spaces. A very small portion has now also started going into entrepreneurship and business. Some of them go into MBA. Very small portion go into engineering, and a fairly very small portion go into hardcore engineering jobs apart from software and all, right? But
Right.
there is a very, very small fraction which goes into very non-conventional fields like social work, like psychology, right? I know a senior who is a clinical psychologist after he graduated, like law, right? So these kind of options are also being pursued. So don't think that college is where you decide your career. You actually decide your career after you graduate. So
Oh,
please feel
that's
free to take those kind of risks.
great, great, great. So you don't decide your career in your college, but there is a long way to decide your career, and chalk out the
Yes.
right path, what suits you in the best possible way. Thank you for sharing that insight as well, Samek. So you also talked about having a set of right mentors. So if you can, as you mentioned, so any specific examples which you would share, or any specific learnings, maybe three learnings which you have taken from your mentors or seniors or somebody which has really helped you in the life, if you can share some lights on that.
Sure, sure, sure. No, definitely. I think three people, four people clearly come to my mind when I talk about my mentors, right? First and foremost, I think my elder brother, right? He has been a mentor to my personal life. So
Great.
whenever I think of something which is maybe more egoistic or which is more childish, right? That's where he come in and he tell me that, hey, this is what it should be. It's not that, hey, this is what you should do. It's about, hey, this is what it should be.
Should
This is what it should not be, right? So on the personal end, it's more about him, and then more on the professional end, more on the career end. I remember one of my seniors telling me while I was deciding to do an internship versus starting the startup and hire some interns. So during those 2 months of my third year internship period, so he mentioned that if you cannot give these 2 months to your life, to your idea, to your dream, forget giving next 15 years to your dream. And that had hit me really very hard, right? So I really didn't think about anything, and I completely agreed to him. Bilkul sense bana raha hai. There is no nonsense that he's talking about, and
Right.
that's what actually was the first step that I had taken, right? So this was more on the professional or more on the career end. And then I think I was a part of a good group of people. It was not just one people or two people. We were aina at IIT Delhi. It's called aina, an initiative for national advancement, where there were 15, 20 people, my seniors, my juniors, my batchmates, all of those, who we discuss a lot of things, not only about career, not only about personal life, but in general about life, in general about what is life, what exactly we are heading, right, as a society. And I think those kind of questions, when you discuss, you do that mind churning, right, is what gives you a lot of insights beyond your daily work. So these set of people around you is really important. I would have chosen a different set of people, and I would have been in a very different path, right?
Correct.
And that is also equally appreciable. But choose your people very wisely. I think that's the third learning that I've gotten from there.
Okay, okay, that's great. So, just to add on this, I just want to understand. Like, see, we all know that we are the average of five people we are surrounded by, right?
Yeah.
So, just to take it, because it's a small chunk of people who actually are able to get into the premier institutes like IITs, NIDs, and all the top in different aims, right? So what is the difference which you have found in the people, because you have been running your startups, you have you have had exposure into different fields. So any top three things which differentiates non IITian from an IITian? Any takes on that?
Right. So see, I have a very strong belief in that, right? Very, very strongly, because as a founder now I'm supposed to hire people, and whether I'm preferring an IITian or a non-IITian in the startup at very important positions, right? For example, my co-founder comes from University of Delhi, and that too not really one of the top colleges of University of Delhi, right? My tech person
Okay.
comes from University of Delhi, has done BSc, not even done BTech, right? Then my product person actually comes from the same college as one of my co-founders, right? And none of them are IITians. However, we do have IIT people in the team as well. What I think is, the only difference between the IITian and the non-IITian fundamentally is that IITian had gone enough opportunities, number one. So right, so we say being there at the right time at the right place. So
Okay.
an IDN had been there in their 11th to 12th, had been serious about their career at the right time, and also had gotten the right opportunity from the parents who have spent good enough amount of money in the coaching. Right,
Right.
that
Right.
is it. So apart from that, I think uh, once you get into IIT, practically one major difference is that the environment of those set of people, the environment that is created in that campus is quite very different than the environment that's there. We work with a lot of colleges, right? We screen more than 500 applications daily in our business, right? So
Right.
we're working with more than 800 colleges. One major difference that I've figured out is this environment, which eventually leads into the environment where you believe that they are superior and we are inferior,
Okay.
right?
Hmm.
And from there you actually think of that, hey, this is the limit that I can do, this is the upper limit to what I can do.
Okay.
However, you can actually create this environment which you are missing in your college or in your school by being with the right set of people. For example, at MyWays, we've created that kind of environment where everyone is empowered, right?
Okay.
Everyone is made believe that they can do it,
Right.
right? I'm just trying nothing but to recreate that environment that I've gotten into college with our
Okay.
team and by and large with our users also. So being in that environment is important. That is the only difference that I see in an IITian or a non-IITian, that a non-IITian do not generally get that kind of environment. However, some people do get that and they actually succeed quite well. So just try
Okay.
to figure out those environment. And as a matter of fact, IIT Delhi is also quite very open. So you, if you are in Delhi NCR in any college, you can visit the campus any day. You can actually make friends with those people and get access to a lot of events there, right? The college is quite open. I see a lot of students coming in there. So take out these opportunities at your benefit.
Nice, nice. Thank you for sharing that, Samek. And one thing, just I would request you to let the audience also know, like, because you have been also in the career domain space, right? Helping out students upskill, and so can you just give us a brief about what you are doing, what is your startup about, and how you are guiding the students?
Sure. So we actually at myways.ai, I think 4 years back, we started as a career guidance platform for college students. So my
Okay.
hypothesis was, I started with this hypothesis, like school students don't have enough exposure and college students can give them that exposure.
Right.
To my surprise, I found out that even the college students don't have that exposure. I'm talking about college students in University of Delhi. I'm talking about college students in IIT Delhi, not even the
Right.
college students in tier 3 or tier 4 colleges.
Correct.
So so we started with this thing and eventually went into guiding college students about their careers, and then we chose a very specific niche which currently we are operating in is the engineering, software engineering fields, where we give them right kind of exposure with respect to what is needed in the industry. So we see that what you're studying is very different than what's needed in the industry, and
Right.
we conduct a lot of, so we are entirely a free platform right now for
Okay.
B2C or for the students. We do not charge the students, we charge the companies. And we provide free mentorship to the students where we conduct a lot of webinars, a lot of assessments and feedback sharing sessions for the students with respect to their employability and whether they're ready for the industry or not. So that's primarily our work.
Okay. Okay. Great. That's great. So let's move forward, and I have few more questions for you. So as I can see, like the exposure you had exposure of in volunteering, entrepreneurship, then it research, extracurricular activities at college. You also worked with Government of India, with Ministry of HRD, then DST, that is Department of Science and Technology. You were the delegate at HPA, right? Also, so let's start taking one by one. And my question would be, from this particular stint, what you learned the most, so that
Oh
students can
wow.
also, yeah, student can also. So let's start with the volunteering activities which you did in 2016 and 2017. So there were two volunteering activities which I see. One was with Vision India Foundation. That was a boot camp
Right.
kind of thing. What were your
Yeah.
takeaways from that, or what insights you gained over there?
So I was a volunteer there. I was a part of organizing team at that boot camp. My key takeaways, I think, so it was the first internship that I was doing, right?
Okay.
And the major key takeaway there was life is not easy.
Okay.
So you have to do a lot of work which you don't want to do, right?
Okay.
So I was part of organizing team. I was literally editing videos. So I was like, यार ये मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ?
Yeah.
But you have to do a lot of those kind of works in order to be successful as a mission as a whole, right? In order for
Right.
that even to be successful, I had to do a lot of work which I don't like, and that's a part of my work, right?
Correct.
So quite early, I think I learned that. That was the first internship that I had done in 2016, first year.
Yeah. Great, great, great. So life is not that easy as it seems to be. That was the takeaway. Great, great. Thank you for sharing that. Next, which I can see in 2017-16, you also served as the president for Blood Connect Foundation. Blood Connect Foundation is India's largest youth-run blood donation foundation, right? So
Right, right, right.
please share.
So I was actually leading the Delhi chapter for that organization, and I think it consisted of 60% of the entire volunteers. So I
Okay,
was being a second year student. I was leading a team of 120 students in Delhi chapter, and I had a responsibility to conduct a lot of blood camps, awareness camps, and fulfilling the blood needs. Right. Uh, I had grown very so my pace of growing within the organization was very fast, from a volunteer to a
right.
manager to a I didn't become a vice president. I was directly promoted to a president.
Correct.
My key learning there was I was very, very associated or connected with the cause, right? And I think one of my mentors told me I really got to disturb myself a lot when I see other volunteers not working with that much efficiency that I'm working with. And because I was
Okay.
connected too much with that cause, I thought that everyone should put in their best efforts, sometimes also not really prioritizing other stuff over it. So in that, I think two lessons there. As a leader, you cannot expect everyone to be equally moved or equally motivated, right? It is really
Right.
important to understand that different people have different motivations, and you have to
Yes.
actually work with them accordingly. The
Right.
second thing which I always remember, my mentor, who was a board member at Blood Connect, used to tell me, if you want to become a leader, don't sell ice creams,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I used to think that everyone should be happy, everyone should be really liking the work and all of that. But that's like everyone will be happy only when you sell ice creams. If you want to make everyone happy, don't be a leader, sell ice creams. So that
Right.
was the second learning there.
Okay, okay, that's great. That's great. So the being connected to the cause was something which was helping you to drive that, and that was the reason why you moved so fast from a volunteer to
Right,
a president level. Great, great, great.
right,
Thank
right,
you, thank you, thank you for sharing. Next, moving to government of India projects like design innovation fellow. You were a design innovation fellow with MHRD, and then EIR, that is entrepreneurship in residence. In 2020, you were there
right,
with Department of Science and Technology. My first question
right.
to you will be: how can students who are in different colleges apply for these fellowships so that they also get the exposure to this? And second,
Right.
it would be that what were your learnings from these two stints?
Sure. I think at that time, this Design Innovation Fellowship by MHRD, this was something very specific to the college, right? So IIT
Okay,
Delhi Design Innovation Center had to select few people, 4 or 5 people every year, to offer them this fellowship while they're graduating. So they say that, hey, we'll provide
okay,
you this much of amount, will support you if you're building something of your own, right? And that has to be in the design space. So it can be software design, it can be hardware design, or it can be design by large. So this was specific to the college. However, I believe that there are a lot of design innovation centers at different colleges, right? I've heard of few in other IITs and all. However, one thing that I've seen over the last 4 or 5 years is with respect to the DST part, right? So DST actually, Department of Science and Technology, actually allocates a good amount of fund to the technology incubators in a lot of colleges, right? These technology incubators are supposed to find best startups and incubate them. So my EIR, entrepreneur in residence, was actually by a college called JSS in Noida,
okay.
right? So
Yeah.
JSS, I had applied it online, and there are
Mhm.
a lot of colleges I've heard of for different colleges. IIM Ahmedabad, Chandigarh University. These colleges actually get these funds from Department of Science and Technology, and they actually quite very transparently provide that kind of fund to the
Okay.
student startups and to the non-student startups also. And
Right.
EIR, which is Entrepreneur in Residence, is actually the fund given to you when you are actually starting something of your own in the technology space. And now I've seen that government has worked quite well in this space, and they're providing a lot of such fellowships where they provide you good enough amount of money, right? 3 lakhs, 4 lakhs, 5 lakhs as a student. That's a good amount to start.
Right.
So you can check the Startup India website and government start in India kind of schemes which are there.
Okay, okay. And for the audience, what is entrepreneurship in residence? If you can just in a short let people know.
Right. So principally, it means that you are staying offline in that campus or in that area and doing entrepreneurship stuff. Principally, it means that. However, practically, there are implications like you're working in a startup on multiple fronts like an entrepreneur, right? So
Okay,
either you are an entrepreneur or working like an entrepreneur
okay,
is called entrepreneur in residence.
okay, okay. Thank you for sharing that. Again, you have already talked about your stint at Taking University, the research part which you did in molecular cloning in life sciences, right? Would you like to share some bits on that?
I think one part that I've shared is
Yeah.
whether your experience is good or not, right? Don't take a decision basis that. Actually think about what was good, what was bad. For me, the bad experience was I didn't have anyone to talk to because Chinese generally by at that time they didn't actually understand a lot of English. I've seen that their English like speaking and like reading has improved a lot in last 10
Right.
years. I've been there twice.
Mhm.
uh, and the food, so vegetarian food was nowhere there.
Yeah.
Because of these two three reasons, I my experience overall was really bad, lonely, right, sad.
Right.
But my work experience was quite very good. I enjoyed the work. So try
Okay.
to bifurcate the different kind of experiences within a larger experience that you have in order to figure out what you're liking, what you're not. However, the best learning that I have had from there is uh, if you're staying at a friend's apartment, right, be make sure that you can be thrown out by the authorities. So I was staying at a friend's apartment there.
Okay.
I've written a good blog. It's called Road Less Traveled by Samyak Jain.
Okay.
It's a 4-part blog and beautifully written. I've received
Great.
good feedback there.
Uh-huh.
So I was thrown out of the campus because I was living in a friend's apartment at
Okay.
7 8 p.m. in the night, and I didn't really know where to go. And I landed up 11 p.m. in a hostel, which was like I didn't know how I landed up there, just booking random hostels and trying it out. And this was the time when we were having a border conflict, I think back in 2018 with China. So it
Okay.
was
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was really horrible as an experience for me.
That's great. That's great. And maybe we will link the your blogs link in the our YouTube channel below
Sure.
this, so that will be helpful as well. Next, I would also like you to talk something about the HPAIR, that is Harvard Project for Asian and International Relations. What is that, and what were your learnings from that, so that students who don't know
Right.
about it first they can understand, and then yeah.
Right. So HPR is actually a student run, I think, an event kind of setup where the students in Harvard actually collaborate with different countries to organize an HPR event, once in the Harvard campus and other in the different city. So
Right.
HPR is Harvard and Asia.
Right.
So the one I attended was in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and then they have organized it in, I think, if I'm not wrong, at IIT Delhi in India, if I'm not wrong there. So a lot of people from Harvard, from different countries of Asia actually come there. A lot of students. It's primarily the students who come there, and they engage on a different kind of lectures and conferences. A lot of competitions. I also won the pitch competition there, right, where where we pitched a mock startup, and we won the pitch. um
Okay.
my major learning, I think, was again the same, which is you often don't know how much you don't know, right? So I was like कि मुझे तो बहुत कुछ पता है, but when I went there, I literally found out that how I have actually come out of a shell, which was my own shell. I've created that shell, which is my knowledge was very limited to the metro cities of India, right? Not even, I won't say,
Okay.
rural of India.
Yeah.
But when I went there, I got to know what's happening in Japan, what's happening in Korea, what's happening here, what's happening there, meeting people from there. I now have a lot of friends from different countries. So how these people are thinking. One of the best learning was how the family culture has built over years in Japan. Right now, what is they're thinking, how it is being affected a lot by the West.
Right.
So I think my thought process went from the local to a global level, and
Oh, that's
and
great.
that too not really a global level. It was just Asian level. I think
Mhm.
it now needs to expand much beyond that also. So
Right.
this was primarily the experience there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's great. That's great. And yeah, so uh, one thing I would like to ask you is like, when you look yourself among your batchmates now, right? You graduated in 2019. Do you feel that you have a lot of your wisdom has enhanced significantly much more than your batchmates? Is there something this kind of thought is there, or do you think that no, everyone is has that kind of learning in their own respective fields? What's your take on that?
Uh, Definitely. I think everyone has had their shares of learning in their respective fields, right? For example, a person who is a consultant at a consulting company has learned a lot about different fields. I have learned a lot about entrepreneurship and education and employment, HR tech, HRs, business, right? But they have learned more around different health tech as an industry, fintech as an industry, or logistics as an industry, and a lot of these different aspects, right? Someone who has pursued more on a social aspect has learned a lot about on ground how people behave, what people know, what people want, all of that, right? So that is there, but as an entrepreneur, I think there's a lot of uncertainty that you face on a day-to-day level. So I
Right.
think facing those uncertainties and being very sure and stuck on the ground is
Right.
something that I think I've learned quite a lot in my area of work.
Right. 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 Thank you very much for sharing that, Samek. Okay. And yeah, uh, are you a avid reader also? I mean, do you read books?
No. So I am
Okay.
actually, that's the one thing that I think I've been wanting to improve a lot. I'm not very sure, but reading books is definitely like important. How I actually compensate my bad habit of not reading books is by talking to people and talking to the right set of people who have read those kind of books or who have gained those kind of knowledge first handedly or through reading such books, watching videos. So I think that's completely fair. So you have to also figure out your learning type. So I am more of
Correct.
a interacting learning type and more of a watching learning type than reading
Okay.
learning type, or a listening learning type.
Yeah.
So that's how I compensate. But definitely I try to improve on that habit of not reading books. I need to improve reading habits there. Yeah.
Great, great, great. Yeah. So absolutely, the learning style of our own self needs to come up with your own introspection. So that's a very good point. I think students should note this down, and I keep on telling in my sessions and workshops as well that we need to understand ourselves. What, because for me also listening and listening and watching is much easier way for me to receive the knowledge rather than reading books. So the same happens with me as well. uh, Moving on to your extracurricular at IIT Delhi, right? So apart from these, you were also the student mentor, and you got a student mentor, best student mentor award, right? And then, so why did you get the best student mentor award? What do you think was different in you, and what were your learnings? If you can show some light
Sure.
on that. Yeah.
Sure. So there are around 900 to 1,000 freshers every year, which who get admission at IIT Delhi, right? And you get a mentor from a third year, right? So every third year mentor is allocated 5 to 6 mentees, right?
Okay.
Now you're, as a mentor, you're supposed to actually guide the freshers on everything and anything, from their studies to पंखा नहीं चल रहा है कमरे का, to where is this particular part and all of that, right? And then you get a lot of confusion as a fresher कि ये करूँ कि वो करूँ, and that's where the mentor helps, right? So I was really like inspired by my own mentor, right? He is Amit Kothari, and he was in third year or fourth year when I joined. uh, I mentioned about that story where he had actually given a good dart to me when I was not attending lectures, and that I think inspired me to apply for a mentorship position there. Around 150 people people get selected, and then from those 150 they actually note down what kind of feedback you're receiving, the mentees are giving to the mentor, how much you're involved in the by and large mentorship, and not only your mentorship to your 5 or 6 mentees, right? And I was
Right.
working the space of mentorship through my ways, used to interact with a lot of students, and from there the body actually noted that effort, and they decided to make me a the like award me with this best mentor award
Great.
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what significant pattern which you found in all students were when you were in third year, you were allocated some of the mentees. What specific pattern you found out was common in all the students? That is first thing. And secondly, what wrong misconception these students carried in when they came into the college? Any highlights on that or some patterns?
Yes, 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 definitely. So I think one common thing was that all of them were confused, right? And it
Okay.
really so as a third year student, you feel कि यार ये confusion क्या ही है, मतलब what are they caring about? इससे काफी कुछ अभी life में आना है. And now when I look back, I see कि यार ये क्या था, third year में भी मैं क्या सोच रहा था और actual में life में क्या क्या आना है. And I believe that that's going to happen with me also,
Right.
that the worries that I have right now are going to increase, and there are going to be better worries to worry about.
Correct.
So this was a common thing, and I think one misconception, if I say, I'm not sure whether all of them had it, but most of us as students have it कि यहाँ तक आ गए हैं तो कुछ भी नहीं करेंगे तब भी बहुत कुछ हो जाएगा, right? So
Okay.
which is basically कि I've come to a good college, and now I'm going to receive 50 lakh, 1 CR, 2 CR package. Let
Mhm.
me tell you, that does not happen. In my batch, I think the average was 12 lakhs. So that was an average, right? And a
Okay.
lot of people were happy in 12, 13 lakhs.
Mhm.
So it does not happen that you get 50 lakhs, 1 CR, 1.5 CR.
Right.
Very few people actually get that kind of package. So this was a big misconception कि बड़े आराम से हो जाएगा आपको. And this is true with every college. So I
Yes.
think one thing which every college student should learn from this is, because we work with college students, is don't expect much from college, be it a good college or be it a bad college. Don't
Right.
expect much. You are your own like driver of your own car, and you have to actually decide your own future. So there are a lot of resources available online. There's a lot of stuff that you can learn on your own, and if something is not working in your favor, then do not put it out across to your college or to your professor or to your system. It's you, because there are people in your college having the same professor, same system, same everything, who is performing much better. So I call it BBS, which is bloody bullshit excuses. I
Great.
call themselves for my excuses, so maybe that can help.
Oh, that's great. So don't bullshit yourselves. Thank you for sharing that point, Samyak. And yeah, that was a very important point which you shared. Like many people are lured by the packages which are being, marketed by the colleges. Specifically, if we are looking at some of the private colleges, they do market. Or there is this conception that most of the students get a crore plus package or that kind of high number, which normally doesn't happen. As you mentioned, that even in IIT Delhi, the average package for a BTech guy, it was around 12 lakhs, 12 to 13, 14, 15 lakhs. Yeah. So this is a very good point. Thank you for mentioning that, because what I see is, uh, when I guide students, is a lot of their career perception is on the basis of the glamour which has been associated with that particular career. YouTubers get the fame, investment bankers, they wear the suit and they roll in Mercedes and all.
Mercedes.
These are the things which actually students are, lot of students are inspired by nowadays. But in real life, the reality is different. So thank you for mentioning out with
I
that.
think one add-on point here is
Yeah.
a lot of my friends like they're having fairly 4 or 5 years of experience, and then the seniors having 10, 12 years of experience, and later on,
Right.
very soon we realize that we are able we take these decisions basis the package or basis the salary, is only because that's the only measurable parameter that we can,
Okay.
the only parameter that we can measure. But
Right.
there are other parameters which are important, which you cannot measure, hence you do not take the decision basis that. But once you're able to measure those parameters, right, you start taking your career decisions basis that. These parameters are happiness, peace, right? Impact. Once you're able to measure these parameters apart from the money, you start taking career decisions basis these parameters also. So please try to fix it as early as possible. Try to measure other parameters which are important to you. Try to quantify these parameters that, hey, my happiness scale, if I pursue an engineering, would be 10. If I pursue X, would be 11 or 15 out of 100 or 100 out of 100, and my salary would be 8. Multiply all of those parameters and get a good figure. What exactly is that's your total package. Your package is not just the salary. Your package consists of happiness, it consists of peace, it consists of impact, it consists of in addition to happiness, it's also content. Are you satisfied,
Yeah,
right? So
absolutely.
try to measure all of these also. Yes.
Brilliant insight. Thank you, Samek. It was brilliant insight. Actually, I had this question written down over here that what do you chase in your career, Samek? Like, is it the happiness or the purpose or the meaning or the money or fame? What you quantify on? So that was a question which I already had. So thank you for
So I
touching
think
those lines.
I think it's about purpose. For me,
Purpose.
it is purpose, and purpose also is fairly around creating an impact, right? And I believe that creating that kind of impact would require money for sure.
Right.
Hence, money, and that purpose will make me happiness. Would make me happy. Would make me content, and hence all of that is also important. But primary driving factor is definitely purpose.
That's great. That's great. Thank you very much. So I think we are coming to the end of the podcast, today's podcast. I for sure one podcast is not enough to talk to you, because I can see you have a lot of insights which definitely will be helpful for the students as well as parents when they are in class 9th to 12th making a career decision, right? uh, but before we close this, anything in you would like to, or any three things which you would like to the students and the parents who are in class 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, or even in college as well, first year of the college, second year of the college, and are confused, and they want to make a right career decision for themselves? What should they do, or something which you would like to share from your end?
Right. I think one thing that parents should definitely understand is career is a very important aspect when it comes to the entire life, right? Spending some amount of money is not should not really be a big concern. I think it's high time now that in India we should actually start thinking about career counselors who are actually able to guide you in the right manner. And more that is important. On the other hand, it is also important that career counselors should be wisely chosen, right?
Right,
So
right,
there are career counselors which are paid by the colleges to promote their colleges. Please try to avoid
right,
them, but try to figure out those people who can actually give you an entire so it's called a diversion and a conversion strategy. First and foremost, diversify the available career options. If you are in 9th, it's for 10th, or you're in 12th, it's for college, or if you're in college, right? Try to diversify, explore, get enough information, and then converge to some specific options. For parents, I think it's very, very important that to understand that in today's world, it's not the world which was like decades back or 3 decades back, which was the decade of our parents. Uh, I think it's important to understand that today's world has a lot to offer in terms of making money. It's not just that those conventional options are the ones which can help you make money, right? I've seen people, as I was mentioning, making money in YouTube. I've seen people making money doing nothing, just talking, right? Doing nothing as in they just love, enjoy talking, and they're making money in that, right? I've seen people making money in travel, seen people making money in counseling, right? And not just engineering, commerce, and all of that. So please make sure that you give that space to the child, because eventually I've also seen maximum of the people out of college which are not able to do anything because their parents are too concerned about their careers. Don't be too concerned about your child's career. Give them some
yeah.
space, have a healthy open conversation, and spend some decent amount of money, whatever your budget allows, to let them explore that those careers while they're in 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th.
Great, great. Thank you very much, Samek, for those wonderful points. And just before we wrap up, just if you had any specific things that you would like to say, or I missed on asking you that, anything else, or we covered the most of the parts? Any
No,
specific?
I think we covered.
We have
I
covered,
think we covered
right?
most of it. Yeah.
Great, great. So thank you very much, Samyak, very first for your time. And I hope the conversation will be really beneficial for all the students as well as parents when they will be going through. The focus of today's discussion was majorly on the exploration part, how to utilize the 4 years, 3 years in the college, which Samyak mentioned his learnings. And that was the major focus of this podcast. If you have any queries, please type that down in the chat box. Or in the comment section, our team will pick up, and maybe we will try to answer those questions as well. If you have some good questions which you want me to ask in my upcoming guest to my upcoming guest, those questions also pin down in the chat so that I can take your queries and ask to them, right? So once again, thank you very much, Samyak, for your time. And just finally, if somebody wants to reach out to you or want to have a connect with you, how they can reach out to you? Are you
So you
available on
please
social media?
drop in.
Huh.
Yes, so you can drop me in a message to my LinkedIn profile, right? You can
Okay.
search for Samyak Jain myways.ai. And
Okay.
while you're sending a connect, please drop in a note so that I know that hey, you have come for this particular purpose, because there are connection limit that I've
Right.
agreed, so you
Right.
will not be able to accept all of the invites.
Great. 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 Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful time. And thank
My
you to all of you, all the viewers who have been watching this till end, because it's a long podcast which we had. Hope you had a great time. Thank you, Samyak, and all the best for to you for your entrepreneurship journey as well. Bye. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, Samuel.